Hi everyone, this is Sean. I hope all of you are doing well. Driving right now, like I said in another video, I'm going to start doing some of my videos in my car. Well, more of my videos in my car while I'm driving. That way I could just be a lot more efficient and be able to produce a lot more material out there. The topic of today's video is, what should I do if I made a private person's arrest and the police don't want to show up, or they don't want to accept custody of my prisoner? What should I do and what are my options? Those of you watching this, you guys know that I am California based. I have lived nowhere else but California. And because of that, most of my knowledge base revolves around California. What I will tell you is that most of the laws, generally they follow the Model Penal Code. Most of the laws, even in your state, almost all the states revolve around the Model Penal Code. So I will give you that assurance. But I will tell you that I am not a licensed attorney. Nothing that I provide in this video shall ever be viewed as legal or professional advice. Do your own research. This video, the information in this video, it can contain errors or omissions that can lead to costly litigation and other troubles. That's my disclaimer that I'm going to be putting out there right now, or that I just put out there right now. Guys, I just pulled over right now because I want to tell you how sorry I am. I posted another video a few days ago on the same topic, and after I posted the video, I'm talking about within the same hour, I started to gather all of my links to back up my statement. So for example, there was a California Penal Code section, and that was 142, and it provided criminal penalties for a peace officer, a law enforcement officer, who was not willing to accept custody of a prisoner from a private person, even considering it was a lawful arrest. And that involved a felony. So when I was citing the section, or posting the section in the description box below on all my YouTube videos, I have description boxes like everyone else, I noticed that there was an exemption to Penal Code 142, and that exemption is that Penal Code 142 does not apply to private person's arrest. It doesn't even say private person's arrest. It refers to Penal Code, let me think here, I think it's 847. And Penal Code 847 allows private persons in California to make an arrest, and it also requires them to deliver custody of the prisoner that they have to a law enforcement officer. So once I went back to 837, Penal Code 837, I realized, hey, wait a minute, that's an exemption that's covered under 142. So what this means in plain English is that there is no criminal penalties if a law enforcement officer or a peace officer does not accept custody of your prisoner. So my video revolved around the fact that there's criminal penalties for peace officers that don't follow the law. Instead of doing you guys all an injustice, I completely delete the video. Now, there were 3 to 4 people that were actively watching my premiere, and that premiere was 23 minutes long. I feel so bad for those 3 to 4 people that were watching the premiere who wasted 21 or 23 minutes. Guys, from the bottom of my heart, I really, really, really apologize for that. I'm sorry. I do make mistakes in my videos. This mistake is one of them. Another video that I deleted involved what to do if somebody is going to ambush you in your car. What are some techniques to consider? When our subscribers was not really fond about that video. And mentioned that video can get some people hurt, or that the information that came in the video can get somebody hurt, I deleted that video within the same day, or maybe the next day. But that video is gone. So I have no reservations on deleting videos if I must. Now that I got that off my chest, time to go back to my drive. This video was inspired by the Security Guard Command, one of my favorite channels, an underrated channel but very valuable. David operates that channel. He's a private security officer in California, the northern part of California. He actually had some dialogue with another one of my favorite security YouTubers, Mike Alvarez, aka the man who videotapes or records in the dark. He posted a video about security officers making an arrest. They went back and forth with some dialogue, some very interesting dialogue. And this video piggybacks off of their discussion. So David mentioned in his video, and it's apparent he works at a hospital. He even mentioned in another video that he works at a hospital. There was a patient who assaulted a nurse, and the local police department refused to show up. I am sure David feels, I want to say, frustrated about the current law enforcement trends and what the trends are in society. It's pretty frustrating when you work hospital security. There's a certain bond that you gain with the staff. You know that if something popped off, you would risk life and limb to do whatever it is to protect your people at the hospital. The nurses, the doctors, all the staff, you kind of feel like they're your kids, like they're your responsibility. So when something happens to them, you're not supposed to take things personal, but it is very personal when your coworker, the person that you're supposed to be protecting, is assaulted. So it looks like the security department called the police department, or maybe the nursing manager, the house supervisor, somebody in that facility called the police department, and they refused to show up. So let's talk about what are the options if something like this happens. So we already know that we can't use the strong arm of California 142. California Penal Code 142. It does not work to our advantage anymore because it doesn't exist. Well, it exists, but is not applicable to private person's arrest. So there is no compulsory process for law enforcement officers to accept custody. The process that we have to depend on is the manual, the policy, the SOP. What is the local police organization's policy on handling misdemeanor arrest and handling felony arrest? That evolve or come from the private person. What's the policy? Every department that I know in California has a policy on how to handle those situations. Most smaller law enforcement agencies to mid-size, what they actually do is they use what's called Lexipol. It's Lexipol. That is a standard policy that a lot of law enforcement agencies use. It's a private company that's owned and operated by prior law enforcement who end up becoming attorneys. Very reputable firm. Most of the policies involving private persons' arrests, it's a lot of them are really the officer should make an arrest. They say most of the policies will say the officer shall accept, or should, I don't want to mess this up, should accept custody from somebody who made a private person's arrest. Or may. They usually use the words shall or may. Those two words are not mandatory. Those aren't mandatory words. So the officer has discretion whether to accept custody or not. And remember, just because an officer does not accept custody, that does not mean that they don't have to write up a report and forward the report to the district attorney's office for review. That does not mean that they can't just issue this person a citation, also known as a notice to appear, and then they'll have to appear at a later date. You guys, a ticket that is written to somebody that just committed a crime that you place a citizen's arrest on, that ticket, all that means is that person was actually placed under arrest by you. The officer accepted custody, and that person has to appear at court at a later date. Okay, that's what that means. Now, if the officer does not believe that there's reasonable cause or probable cause for you to believe that that person committed a crime, they don't have to accept custody under almost every policy that there is. In my law enforcement career, and I have a very long law enforcement career, I've made obviously hundreds of arrests, just like every other law enforcement officer. But I have also taken I accepted custody from a lot of private persons' arrests. And I could count on my hands how many times I refused to accept custody, and that was about 3 times. And most of the time it was because there was a shoplifting incident, there's a new establishment in town that had a brand new loss prevention staff. And what would happen is, if there's an employee that saw a shoplift incident, that employee would notify the loss prevention manager, or many times they would just notify a regular store manager, who would then notify the loss prevention manager, and the loss prevention manager would tell the loss prevention agent what happened. The loss prevention agent would call the police department. They would have somebody in their custody. We would show up, and we get the facts. And during those times, the facts were as follows. Well, number one, the first person who observed the crime occur in their presence went home for the day, and they were not reachable. So what you would get a lot of times is triple hearsay, and the evidence was not too credible. It just shed too much doubt on whether or not this was a legitimate arrest. So in those circumstances, I refused to accept custody. There wasn't much of an argument. Loss prevention staff, there was a little bit of fight, of verbal resistance to it. But at the end of the day, after I explained to them that I can't accept custody, they were fine with it. Yeah, they were totally fine with it. But that does not mean that I didn't have to write a report to the district attorney's office. Maybe they wanted to pursue charges. I'm not saying that didn't happen as well. Okay, we're always trying to help out our security partners. To reiterate that the reason why I'm mentioning criminal law, policies and procedures for many police departments out there is that you have to know what the rules of the game are, what the rules of the department are, before you start out and begin your complaint process and look rather foolish. Try not to go that route. Know what the law says and know what the organization's rules are. If you're in California, most law enforcement agencies are required by law to post their SOPs, their policies and other operating procedures. So if you have a problem with a certain police department not wanting to go to your facility and accept custody of these prisoners, go online and download their policy. And a simple search of private person's arrest or arrest in somewhere in those sections is going to lead you to what the proper policy or protocol is. When a police officer or a law enforcement agency does not follow their own protocol, somebody at the department is most likely breaching one of their own policies. So know what the policy says first. Now, what should you do if you call a police department after you have somebody in custody for private person's arrest? What should you do? Most people watching this video, you guys are doing it completely wrong. What you're doing is you're calling the police department, and I know this because I've worked inside of that dispatch communication center before, and I know what you guys are out there saying, but most of you are calling and saying, hey, I'm a private security guard and I have somebody under private person's arrest for shoplifting. Or what you might say is somebody just stole and we have him detained. Or somebody broke a window and he's over here at our office. Can you please send an officer? That's what the majority of you are saying, but you're saying it wrong. When you call, you got to say this. Hi, this is my name, and I am at this facility. I am a private security guard, and I made a lawful private person's arrest on this subject we have here arrested for whatever it is, burglary, theft, trespass, whatever it might be. I'm calling to transfer custody to you. So once again, my name is so-and-so. I work for this security company. I'm located at this post. I have this person here under private person's arrest. I am calling to deliver this person to a peace officer, to you guys, to one of you. Now, considering the current climate, the dispatcher might say, I'm sorry, we're booked. We have a lot of calls pending. I can't send an officer. Most people are willing to accept that. Okay, fine. One of the reasons why a dispatcher is able to do that is because many times they don't fall under the current policy for that department. That policy that they have there, most of the time, it is relevant to sworn law enforcement personnel. When you guys call law enforcement, you're talking to a non-sworn member most of the time. You're talking to a dispatcher. That person does not have the same obligations under a policy that a sworn police officer does. And it's for that reason that they could simply just tell you that they're not going to respond. Now, what you can do is ask, okay, they tell you that they're not going to send an officer. Can I please speak to the watch commander? The watch commander is a sworn police officer, a sworn peace officer, sworn law enforcement officer. Get this person's name, their complete name. If they don't want to give you first name, that's fine. Okay, fine. Lieutenant Dan, Lieutenant Dan, may I have your badge number or ID number? Write that number down. Because that's a sworn that lieutenant continues, or lieutenant or watch commander, I'm sorry, if that watch commander continues to refuse a response, that person could be violating department policy. And the policy will apply to them, most likely. When I say watch commander, I'm referring to the person who has the highest rank at that time for that patrol shift. So this can be an officer that's been there a long time that has no rank. This can be a corporal that might have rank. This can be a sergeant that most of the time has rank. It could be a lieutenant. It could be a patrol lieutenant. It could be a patrol captain. It could be a deputy chief. Whoever the highest ranking person is, they are generally referred to as either the watch or the watch commander. If you work in another state, I like to know who the highest ranking on-duty supervisor is for your local law enforcement agency. What do you guys call them? So if this person says we still can't send an officer, I want you to say this. Okay, watch commander so-and-so, I understand, but I did make a lawful arrest and this person is under my custody and I just need to simply transfer custody to you. I like to transfer custody to you personally. This person, again, could refuse. If these law enforcement agencies refuse a response, I want you to call back and get a hold of the dispatcher and get a log number, an incident number. If they are unable to do that, get a dispatcher ID number, get a dispatcher name, get names of everybody, write down the dates and times, because most likely your call to them is going to be documented some way or form, probably through the CAD system. What you can also do, if they're not going to put you into the CAD system, is ask, is there a way that I can have this refusal documented? Okay, they can do that as well. That's one of the better ways, you guys. This is a short-term fix. At that time, at the crime scene, what I want you to do is identify this person. The best way is through ID. The Powers to Arrest manual, this is a guide that we use in California. They don't want us to go through people's pockets unless you have a reasonable belief that somebody is hiding a weapon in a pocket. Then it's okay to check the pocket, but they want you to search the outer portion though of the clothing. Those are the rules that we're given in California. I'm going to say this once, I'm going to say it again. The BSIS, the Bureau of Security Investigative Services, do not make laws in our state. The manual that we're supposed to go by is not the law. There are mistakes in that manual. It's clear. The manual says don't go in the pockets, only search for weapons, outer portion of the clothing if you believe that they might have one. If this person does not willfully provide ID to you, this is what I would do personally, and this is only me. I would have my body camera on or a cell phone camera on. I would have it video recording, and I also have a witness. I would go through this person's pockets. I would grab their wallet, go through it on body camera, and grab their ID, look at it, and take a photograph of it, or jot down this person's personal information. What is the worst that can happen to you? Now, just having an open discussion with you, technically, when you go inside someone's pocket, you're touching their clothing, and their clothing is an extension of their skin. You are technically committing a battery. I don't see any prosecutor arresting you or having you arrested or having you charged for battery if you're going inside of someone's pockets to identify somebody, especially considering the fact that the police department refused to show up to the scene. I don't see any prosecutor doing that. The next issue is civil law. Well, you cannot touch somebody in an unlawful manner. Civil law requires something less than a criminal battery. So in criminal battery, in a battery, it's the unlawful use of force or violence upon the person of another. It's the touching of somebody in a lawful manner without any self-defense exemptions. That's more or less what the criminal definition of battery is. The civil requires a lot less. It's that physical intrusion on somebody, which is also a trespass. The jury's going to look at it, the court's going to look at it and say, hey, you know what? If it even gets to the courts, I mean, it's just a waste of money if they're going to litigate you for this. They're going to look at this. Was this something that was reasonable? Well, yeah, it was reasonable. This security officer needed to identify this person so that this person can someday, soon, within the statute of limitations, bring this person into court and sue them for the crime that was committed. You can sue somebody if they commit most of the crimes, especially for them stealing, for trespassing. You can sue somebody for this. So your reasoning for going in the pockets there's two things. Number one, the reason is You want to correctly identify this person because you're gonna go directly to the prosecutor's office and see if they can directly accept the case from you and pursue charges, which without a police report it's very difficult to do, but that's going to be your intent. Second, I want to correctly identify this person so my company could bring forth suit to this person in the legal justice system. That's why I wanted to identify this person. The courts are going to do a balance analysis. Was the intrusion, was this personal intrusion, did it outweigh the disadvantage or the inconvenience to this person? All you're doing is perhaps reaching into the two pockets with the two fingers and taking their ID out. Now you have to ask yourself whether or not is this intrusion on this person, is it worth the right that you're willing to preserve, that you want to preserve? So everybody obviously has a right to self-defense. They have a right to fair access into the criminal justice system. So this nurse that's battered or assaulted, this person has a right as a victim to have equal opportunity in the criminal justice system. Look at the offense that's being committed. Is this just a push of a nurse or other person? Is this just a shove? Did this person get punched in the face and their teeth knocked out? Was this person stabbed with maybe a syringe? Was this person hit with an IV stand? In the hospitals they have the IV stand, and you hit someone with that, you can cause a lot of damage, and depending on the type of damage, you might have a felony. Okay, so you have to ask yourself these things. If this is a simple trespass, it might not be worth it to go in their pockets. And plus, if you go in someone's pockets, they might have a syringe, they might have a sharp object that can transmit a communicable disease. That's another reason why you should not go in their pockets. So in this video, I'm not telling you to go inside of someone's pockets.
This intelligent option will increase your survivability.
If this is a major problem, okay, with the watch commander not wanting to go to and accept custody of your prisoner, you can always go back the next day, talk to the sheriff, talk to the chief, and see what's going on. Right now, the way politics are, you guys, there is low morale at police departments, and because there's low morale, there's not enough people that want to become officers. They don't want to stay in the profession. They are retiring. They're retiring early. There's a war on police. There's the funding the police movement that does not help. Police officers have the lowest morale right now, and they're going to take their time going places. But in doing so, they're going to meet the minimum standards, which may not be your personal standards, but it might be the industry standards with regards to response times. We don't need officers doing that. We need them to go above and beyond and be a little bit faster. Unfortunately, we're not going to get that level of service. And also, those of you watching this does not project on my thought process, my intentions as a law enforcement or peace officer. I'm just telling you what the overall sentiment out there is. Because of there's low shortage, low manpower right now, there might be some directives that might come from the command staff that are passed down to watch commanders, and they may say, hey, we're going to leave responses discretionary according to the watch commander on a day-to-day basis, or they might have a policy that they're not going to accept any misdemeanor private person's arrest due to manpower shortage. That's also a possibility. You might see that in a directive that's not public information, that's not public record. That's why you got to go above. If you're not getting the answers you want, go to the next person in line, and then go to the next person in line. In another video, if you guys are interested, I will show you what you can do if you get total non-compliance from law enforcement. But there's a lot more to know than this video. I can't cover it in this. I'm thinking this video is probably lasting about 30 to 40 minutes. right now. Maybe less. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are. What is going on in the security world right now? Are police officers, are they not responding when you call them? When you have when you have somebody in custody under a private person's arrest, are they not responding at all, or they're refusing to take custody? I want to know right now what is going on around there, around your post, and I want to hear what you guys have to say. I read all your comments, and other people hear a lot of your comments. We get a lot of positive feedback. Please like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Take care.